System Shock is a game that came out in 1994. This isn't that System Shock. The System Shock I played is a remake of the 30-year-old game. From what I understand, if you played and enjoyed the original way back then, you're probably in for quite a treat here. I never played the original, so I didn't have any nostalgic memories pushing me forward when I played. So whether you're familiar with the game or not, stick around and let me tell you what it was like. You may want to give it a shot. The story was kind of hard to follow. From what I could tell, you're a hacker. And shortly after a successful job, the authorities show up. After that, you're caught and brought to a space station prison kind of place. There, you are coerced into making some adjustments to the AI in charge, so the boss can gain more control. When the job is done, he knocks you out. Shortly after that, you wake up to find the ship has been taken over by the AI and is creating cyborgs out of the poor souls that were working on the ship. From there, you have to fight your way through waves of enemies and find a way to stop the AI from leaving the ship and taking over Earth. System Shock does have a mature rating due to excessive amounts of blood and the mutilation involved in making cyborgs. And there are some obscene gestures made by the main character. But given that the graphics are very old school with shiny new paint, it doesn't look realistic. It's the imagination that makes it graphic. There will be dismemberment depending on how an enemy is killed, either blowing up a head with a gun or cutting them in half with a melee weapon. System Shock has a lot of combat, with plenty of options to use in the fight. Starting out with only a lead pipe to bludgeon enemies, I found a few guns, some more melee weapons, and different grenades to play with. Out of everything I found, my favorite ended up being an energy sword that seemed to do a lot of damage to most enemies. Sadly, I couldn't use that on everything. The enemies found in the game can die really fast, if the correct weapon is used. For instance, I could hit a robot with a melee weapon for a while. It would eventually die, but it would go down with a single shot from a gun super effective against robots. There was a little note with each weapon picked up, alluding to when and where to best use it. I did find it annoying how difficult it was to obtain enough ammo to keep me going. Ammo can be found on enemies or around the ship, but it's not enough. Placed throughout the game will be different vendors to buy ammo from, but that came with a few issues. First, I had to remember what section had what ammo. Then, I had to get enough credits to actually buy the ammo. And I also had to make sure I had enough room in my bags to carry it all. There is a map to help navigating the dark corridors, but it can get confusing by the fact each section has multiple levels, and those levels are stacked on top of each other on the map. So it may look like I'm right next to something, but it's above or below me, and I have to figure out a new path to get to the thing. Along with fighting my way through the ship, there were various puzzles I would have to figure out, so special doors would open, or elevators could unlock. There were a couple different puzzles to figure out with no guidance. At least I didn't see any instruction. After enough trial and error, I started to get the hang of it, and it was pretty fun. There was also a very bizarre section of the game that had to be accomplished in order to move forward. I think it was a representation of hacking in order to unlock something on the ship. I would be sent into a colorful area where I could fly in all directions, shooting at things trying to kill me. If I died in there, I would go back to my body with 1 health. I could try again with no more penalty until I beat it, so Death in the hacking world was never death in the real one. Staying alive was a chore itself. Healing items were very rare and hard to come by. There were healing patches I could buy from vending machines, but they didn't last very long. My best option was to run all the way back to the beginning of the game and heal up in a pod. The further into the game I got, the longer my walk became. The main character didn't have any dialogue, but there is a story about the whole thing. Scattered throughout the ship, I found different audio logs and data sticks full of notes made by the people trying to survive the computer uprising. Dated back anywhere from a week ago to months. That is basically how the story's told in the game.
Getting supplies from the west wing of medical cost us.
It was impressive how the game felt and looked new and old at the same time. The developers did a good job bringing an old 90s game to life. That said, I found the game to be very tedious and punishing, like old games used to be. Hardly any guidance and a lot of searching to find the way through. I only put about 8 hours in before I ultimately gave up. I didn't really want to use a guide to get through the whole game. From my understanding, a lot of people enjoyed this game. I just wonder if they played the original. I can see the appeal to play an older nostalgic game with a new look. It just didn't keep me interested. So, let's get System Shock rated. Visuals were excellent. I looked up some screenshots of the original, and this looks great compared to that. The only problem I had was, at times, it looked like everything blended together due to poor lighting. Enemies and all. It's getting a 4. The story wasn't as good. Maybe it was great in the past, but there's been so many stories just like this in today's world, I'm giving it a 2. Gameplay was rough. I would get lost. While running around, enemies would respawn, spending more and more of my resources while I tried to find my way around. There were even some instances where my melee attacks wouldn't register and I died. I'm going with another 2. Replayability is non-existent. I couldn't push myself enough to get through it once, so it's getting a 0. There were times I was having fun. I had a small flame of excitement to play it a second night, but it was quickly snuffed after getting back on. So I feel like it's a 2. Making the average a solid 2. With a score like that, this game belongs on the bottom shelf. High end of the bottom, but bottom nonetheless. Like I said earlier, if you had a chance to play this as a kid, you may love the game. But compared to everything that's available now, it doesn't quite stand up to the competition. I'd much rather play the original Doom than this. Anyway, now that I'm done with that, it's time to move on to the next one. I will see you there. Bye!